K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boy's breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
They say you should learn something new every day. Like how you should only drink Jägermeister at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, ice cold. Like those frozen cavemen they find, which makes you wonder, what would a caveman think of Jägermeister? Well, if you served it warm, he'd probably throw it in your face, say, "Unga boonga," and storm off. And nobody wants that. So drink it cold or not at all. Jägermeister. Damn, that's cold. Drink responsibly. Jägermeister liqueur, 35% alcohol by volume, imported by Mast Jägermeister, U.S., White Plains, New York.
Hello and welcome to How We're the podcast. It's Martin here, and it is match day. Sunderland are taking on Aston Villa at Villa Park this afternoon. It's a 2 p.m. start, and we've got all of the build-up here ahead of kick-off. It's actually our first trip to Villa Park since 2017. We played them in a championship game. That was Chris Coleman versus Steve Bruce. We lost that one 2-1. Our last win at Villa Park was when Steve Bruce was our manager, and we won 1-0 in January 2011. We'll come back to that game a little bit later on. But in the meantime, I've got Andrew and Bomber with me this morning to preview the game. And Andrew, this is going to be an interesting match, isn't it? You know, we've had a little bit of a blip in March, and we're coming into this match now on the back of a couple of excellent results. And we seem to really have that bit between our teeth. We've got our eyes on Europe, it seems. And then Villa are coming in at the back of this game after a 4-0 win in Europe, I think, over Bologna on Thursday night. So they're in good form. They've obviously hitting those European heights that we want to hit sooner rather than later, aren't they? So it's all lined up to be a pretty interesting game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I could have done with Bologna putting up a bit more of a fight and giving Villa a decent workout. I think it was pretty one-sided from what I can gather. But yeah, we're going into it in good form. You could probably say this is our toughest fixture left, arguably. Mad when you think we've got Chelsea and Man United still to play. But Villa away is a tough fixture. We go into it though in confidence. And you said there that there was a time when Sunderland were maybe struggling for results a little bit earlier. Well, when you consider we had a supposedly easy start to the season and we've got a relatively comfortable finish, it does make you reassess our results in that middle period and think, well, they maybe weren't as bad as we thought, because there must have been one or two hard games in that run. But yeah, we're flying at the moment. Everybody seems pretty positive about the squad, and if I was a Villa fan, I would be going to this game a little anxious, knowing that the team we're playing are going to give us a decent test.
No, that's right. I was listening to the preview pod that Chris has done with one of the Villa podcasts earlier, and they were saying they're looking at this game, Bomber, as an opportunity to really kind of get that Champions League place, and a win on Sunday will really help them get that. I think will they be pretty much ahead of Chelsea in terms of what points Chelsea can get? I think Chelsea can only go level with them if they win all of their games, if Aston Villa beat us on Sunday. But if you cast your mind back to when we played Villa at home earlier in the season, they'd lost the first few games, hadn't they? And there was all sorts of pressure on Unai Emery. And who knows what happens if Reinildo doesn't lash out and gets sent off in that game, and that could have been completely different for Villa, couldn't it? But it's quite remarkable how they've managed to turn the season around.
Yeah, it's a completely different Aston Villa side, so I don't think we can take much from the home game, in all honesty, because like you said, the circumstances that happened throughout the game, the sending off, etc., makes it a bit of an anomaly. So you can't really look back on it. But that was a period of time when Villa were really struggling, and people were fearing for Unai Emery's the long-standing career that he's had so far at Villa. I think he's probably second or third longest-standing manager at the minute, which is no mean feat in the Premier League. But yeah, Villa will definitely be looking at this as an opportunity. Even though we've gone back to back in our wins for the first time in a long time, I think this season, maybe October. They'll look at our away form and be confident that they will be able to have us come to Villa Park and get a result and get a victory. They'll certainly be up for it. Like Andrew, I would have hoped for them to have had a bit more of a struggle in the week. But I guess when you're 3-1 up anyway, as soon as that first goal goes in and it's 4-1 on aggregate, it's very difficult for an away team to come back from that. So and they wouldn't have even had the travelling. If they'd gone to Bologna and won 4-0, it might be slightly different because of the travelling. But yeah, Villa will be looking at this as a real opportunity to cement that Champions League football for next season. They'll be confident. Their home form is good. I think they're third or fourth in the home form table. And I think it's only us, City and Arsenal that have conceded fewer goals at home than them this season. So they'll go into it with a bit of confidence. But I think so will we. The spring seems to be back in the step of the players on the pitch at the minute, having watched the Spurs game. Admittedly, I guess you can caveat that with an asterisk, which again sounds mad to say. It's only Spurs, but yeah, you can caveat with that. But the players look up for it. They look up for this fight. It looks like they really believe that there's still something to play for this season, and that the powers that be above them have really drummed it into them that this is an opportunity to do something really historic for the football club. At the first season of being back in the Premier League. So yeah, I don't really know what to expect, but yeah, to come back to your question, Villa will definitely be up for it and will really fancy their chances.
It's an interesting point that Bob was hit on there, Andrew, isn't it, in terms of how we looked against Spurs? Because I did wonder after the Newcastle game how that break would affect us. Because, we had 3 weeks off. Obviously, players went on international duty and all that sort of stuff, didn't they? And there was a thought at the back of my mind was, we're safe. We've beaten Newcastle home and away. Do the players kind of think, right, we've done it now this season. We've ticked everything off that we wanted to tick off this season. We've achieved everything we wanted to achieve. And I did have a little concern's probably the wrong word, but I was curious how we'd actually go into that Spurs game and whether we'd have that real drive and determination that we had seen for the vast majority of the season up to that point. Because, you've got the World Cup coming up and players aren't going to want to get injured. And we've achieved everything we want to achieve. But the determination that I think the players showed in that Spurs game, they were well up for every battle, fighting for every ball. And I felt a bit stupid in hindsight when you think, well, Granit Xhaka's in that team and he's not going to let anybody sort of take it easy, is he? But it was reassuring and impressive, I thought, that we still had that drive and determination. And to my mind, the players have all gone, right, these last 6 or 7 games, we want to finish as high as possible, win as many games as possible, try to get into Europe. And that's almost the next target now, isn't it? And Lebris kind of waved it off in his press conference. He said, we just take one game at a time and see what comes. But I'm sure behind the scenes, the players are going, we want to give this a red-hot crack and we want to finish as high as possible. And if we can achieve Europe this season, then what an absolutely superb season we'll have had.
It's not stupidity, Martin. Don't be harsh on yourself. It's just years and years of knowing what football can be like.
This is very true.
Yeah. I think you're right. The players are giving no indication yet of anybody easing off. I think Lebris has said as much in various press conferences, in various interviews that they've spoken and people all seem to be switched on still. I know a manager's not going to come out and say otherwise, but what we are seeing so far certainly seems to back that up. It was noticeable against Spurs that whilst one team were diving all the time and looked really a little bit disinterested towards the end of the game, it was noticeable that we, in comparison, were throwing ourselves into blocks. There's one on the edge of the box where Alderete was falling over and he still kind of manages to angle his body to block the ball when he could very easily have taken a kick in the face or a ball to the face. And that was just one of many where the players were happy to put themselves at physical risk because they're so driven. And I think that's why I'm excited for this Villa game. It's because the players look to be switched on and at it. They've been like that throughout the season, but it does feel as if in these last couple of games that they've maybe taken it up a notch even. So yeah, it speaks a lot to the mentality of the squad, I would say.
Now, we've talked about Villa's form, and it's interesting when you actually look through the league results for this year, because while they have won a lot of games in Europe, the league form's actually not very good. So I'll go through the last 12 games that they've played, right? So the last time out, they drew away at Forest 1-1. Before that, they won 2-0 against West Ham at home. They got beat away at Manchester United 3-1. They lost at home to Chelsea 4-1. They lost away at Wolves 2-0. Drew at home to Leeds 1-1. Beat Brighton 1-0 at home. Drew away at Bournemouth 1-1. Lost to Brentford at home 1-0. They beat Newcastle away 2-0, so we can give them that one. Well done. Good teams do that. They lost at home to Everton 1-0 and drew away at Palace 0-0. So in the last 12 games, they've actually only won 3. They've only scored 10. And 13 points out of 12 games, if you tally that over the course of a season, you're going to be around that, that bottom half of certainly the bottom third of the table, aren't you? Bottom quarter of the table. And it seems to me when you look at West Ham, if you look at Aston Villa over the course of the season, they had a terrible start. They had some great results in the middle of that season. But since January, the league form's actually been pretty poor. And when you kind of look at that, you go, we've got a chance of getting something out of this game, haven't we? Surely.
Oh,
surely, Bomber.
Absolutely we have. And, when you're reading those results out, I hadn't appreciated that's a run that stretches that far back. And I'm thinking, how on earth are they fourth? It's
madness.
It's crazy, really. I mean, that period. I mean, if we're looking back, that period where they weren't very good at the start of the season, it didn't actually last that long. It was probably like 5 or 6 games, and because it was so bad, 5 or 6 games, it was probably exaggerated in terms of. But yeah, they got their act together. But yes, it seems like that extra pressure of Europe, because they're flying in Europe, they can't do anything wrong in Europe. But yeah, because I was looking at their results as well. But I hadn't isolated the Premier League, so I'm looking. Oh, yeah, that's a good result. Oh, that's a good result. Oh, that's a good result. And now I'm looking back through it. It's against Lille. It's against Bologna. Yeah. It's against. It's all the Europa League stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting today. It really is, because, like I said, there's stuff to play. Both teams have got something to play for, something to achieve still in this season. Villa will have one eye on, which sounds weird, a European semi-final against Nottingham Forest. That's a proper 70s, 80s European cup tie, isn't it?
Brilliant.
Really?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do feel a little bit sorry for the fans of Forest and Villa. They're having to go, we're in a European semi-final, going to a European away day. Oh, where are you going? Nottingham. But yeah, so they'll have an eye on that. Like I say, they've still got stuff to do in the Premier League to guarantee Champions League football, on the assumption that they don't win the Europa League, obviously. It's going to be a good game. I've got a really good feeling it's going to be a good open game. Both teams are going to want to win it. I think neither team gains anything from a draw, really. I think publicly, maybe Regis will tell you he'll take a draw, and I think maybe us as fans might take a draw given our away form. But really, I think in both of those dressing rooms, they'll be looking and saying, we can get something here, we can get 3 points here. And that usually makes for a good game. But in terms of which Villa turn up, if it's a European Villa, it'll be a tough day. If it's the Villa that is losing at home to Everton, and I can't even remember those results now. There's so many of them. But yeah, it's definitely a game that will be tough, but it's one that we can go away from with something, I think.
And that's going to be an interesting thing about this game as well, Andrew, isn't it? Because I thought when we played Newcastle last time away from home, I thought it was a bit of a different away performance from what we've seen in other games. I thought we were a bit more expansive, a bit more aggressive. We kind of took the game, apart from that first 10 minutes, we took the game to the opposition and looked really good. We looked good in an attacking sense. We had a number of efforts on target and all that sort of stuff, which we've been critical of in some away games, that we haven't tested the keeper enough. And I think it's going to be a really intriguing tactical battle, because again, I was listening to Chris's podcast with Neil, the Aston Villa fan, and he was saying like Emery's tactics, it almost sounds a bit like Lebris, where he's quite well structured. He rather teams come onto them than try to go on to other teams. And I can see this being quite a cagey tactical battle, really. And how that pans out, how the European football affects Villa, whether they, I know they haven't travelled, but they've played an extra game midweek compared to the football that we've played, and whether their players are going to be focused on that rather than the league. I think the reality is, unless they completely fall apart, they'll get Champions League football looking at the fixtures that remain. So it's going to be curious how they actually approach this game, and how we adapt to it tactically. And it's one of the things I love about watching us under Lebris, because you can just see those little things that have been worked on and trained, the little tactical things, and a player will move slightly in field or drop a little bit, and it's all kind of part of a master plan that Lebris has put together.
Couldn't agree more on that point, Martin. You never know until the game's underway just how we're going to handle things, and there is always this evolution of the side, and it doesn't always have to be huge changes. It doesn't have to be like something obvious that you see from the lineup, like he's named 5 defenders or whatever. It can just be little tweaks here and there, and you're right. Against Newcastle, we were on the front foot a lot more. So in the past, we could say pretty confidently that Lebris prefers the other team to dominate possession. But we've very quickly shown that we can do it the other way too, and that we can get the ball and make use of it and look dangerous. So I'm not concerned about us being outmaneuvered by Villa or outthought or anything like that. You've both suggested it's likely to be an interesting game. And I think it'll perhaps just come down to a couple of moments of quality, a couple of one-off incidents, or if we're lucky, we catch Villa on a day where they've got their eye on other things and we capitalise on it. I take the point that really something's going to have to go spectacularly wrong for them now to not qualify in one of those Champions League places. So it would be lovely to think they give us a little helping hand by being ever so slightly unfocused. But yeah, at the moment, as we sit down and we talk here, none of us can be 100% confident as to how Sunderland are going to play this game and what our setup's going to be.
No, that's right. And it's a good point for us to take a little break, because when we come back after a couple of ads, we're going to try to predict what the setup's going to be. We'll see you very shortly.
No one goes to Hank's for spreadsheets. They go for a darn good pizza. Lately, though, the shop's been quiet, so Hank decides to bring back the $1 slice. He asks Copilot in Microsoft Excel to look at his sales and costs and help him see if he can afford it. Copilot shows Hank where the money's going and which little extras make the dollar slice work. Now Hank has a line out the door. Hank makes the pizza, Copilot handles the spreadsheets. Learn more at m365copilot.com/work.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Welcome back to How Are the podcast for our matchday preview. Sunderland playing Aston Villa this afternoon at 2 o'clock at Villa Park. And we are going to try to pick Regis Labriss's brain apart and see what the team lineup's going to be today, Bomber. Let's start. I think Robin Roof's goalkeeper is a
Oh, that's going to be my hot take.
That's going to be your hot take. I'm stealing that one away from you, mate. I think I'll slot that one in. And I will just say with Robin Roofs, I thought it just showed the difference in quality with him coming back into the team last week, because everything just looked so much more assured. The defence looked more confident, calmer. The time that he has on the ball is astronomical when you actually watch him, how he receives a pass. His touch out of his feet is absolutely beautiful, because he just needs one touch and he's got an angle for a pass. And I think that's what really stood out with Elborg when he was playing. He needed 2 or 3 touches to get his body in the right position to play the ball out. And that's something that will obviously be worked on with the coaching staff at Sunderland. But Robin Roofs just come back into the side it's like night and day to me. So he will obviously keep his place. And it was very reassuring, I think, to hear him talk about his sort of long-term future at the club as well. In midweek, he was talking about what the club can achieve next season, which hopefully dampens a little bit of transfer speculation, because I think unless he gets a move to Real Madrid, Barcelona, or somebody like that as first choice, he's not going to get a better club.
No, I agree. But the cynic in me, excuse me, the cynic in me suggests that might have just put £10 million on his transfer fee rather than anything else. But no, I genuinely, he's one who I genuinely think will be here next season. You know, he's come in. It's only his second season of senior professional football.
I tell you what, just on that one, unbelievable, that isn't it? Like,
he is, yeah.
Such an experienced, composed goalkeeper.
Yeah, he looks like he's got 6, 7, 8 years worth of experience, Champions League football, international football. He is, and I don't think I'm exaggerating this point, he is a fully fledged should be a top international goalkeeper. And for him to be at that stage, I think if you spoke to anybody outside the club or outside the fan base about Robin Roofs and they see him, they would automatically assume he's, when he went to the last World Cup with the Dutch, he was in the Euro squad. He looks like a goalkeeper who's probably got 100 Premier League appearances under his belt and 50 international caps. It's crazy, and you can really, like you suggested, Mark, can really see that difference. And I genuinely don't think there's a better place for him to play his football, regardless. Like you said, if a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich or someone like that comes along, then of course you're going to go. You're going to fancy your chances. But I don't think he's going to want to go anywhere in the Premier League and play second fiddle to anybody when he can play potentially European football next season and be a number one. And, with all respect to Elborg, be relatively unchallenged, I think, in that, because there is quite a gulf at the minute.
I think he's only benefit from going anywhere. Like even if Real Madrid or Barcelona came in from, Bayern Munich came in from, unless he was guaranteed to be first choice, then at his age, in his development now, I just know I'm looking through red and white tinted glasses when I say this, but I just don't see how he'd be better off going anywhere else. Like, he's been linked with Chelsea, absolute basket case of a club,
especially when goalkeepers are involved.
Oh, exactly. So you're looking at that and you're going, it actually doesn't make any sense. And I think we need, as a club, to actually see where we are now and appreciate where we are now and appreciate the opportunity that the club's given players and players have at this club. Because objectively, there's not many better places to play football, especially if you're playing it week in, week out at the minute. You've got people like Xhaka who you're training alongside and working alongside. You've got a manager who trusts them. It's all steady behind the scenes, all that sort of stuff. And I just think as a group, we kind of need to really appreciate that, because this isn't the Sunderland of 10 or 15 years ago where we'll just accept a bid and players want to move straight away.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a completely different kettle of fish. Anyway, that is completely off the point. Robin Roof's in goal. Last week, it was a bit of a surprise, Andrew. Labris sprang a bit of a surprise, leaving Trey Hume on the bench. Luke O'Nien kept his place in defence. In the press conference this week, Dan Ballard is fit again. He's been training all week. He'll be in the squad. I think, who was it? Angulo, Jimmy was mentioned as well as Traore. And they could all be available for Forest, I think, but they won't be around for today's game. So how's the defence looking in your eyes today?
Well, normally when we do these and we talk about what we expect the lineup to be, it gets quite complicated. I actually think this is the easiest lineup. Of course, this will all blow up in my face when I get it all wrong. But I think this is...
7 team changes announced at 1 o'clock.
Yeah. Angulo playing in the middle of defence or something.
Abdullah Bar recalled. So.
Oh, that's tickled as that. Yeah, I actually think that the outfield is fairly set at the moment, and I think the only change is in defence. And if Labris isn't, trying to throw a curveball and throw people off the scent, if Ballard is as sharp as we're led to believe, I think he comes in 409, and then the back four is Mukele, Ballard, Aldrete, and Ronaldo. That's what I imagine we'll be seeing today.
Bomber, in the press conference, Labris he hedged his bets a little bit about Ballard. I don't know if you heard, he sort of said, yes, he's fully fit, he's been training all week, he's available, but we don't necessarily, he kind of said we don't necessarily want to rush him back, or we don't have to rush him back. But he's been such an important part of that defence all season. He's been one of our players of the season, surely, hasn't he? So is he one, if he's fit, he comes straight back in?
Ordinarily, I would say yes without hesitation, Mark. And it would be a point that I'd probably raise myself. If Dan Ballard is 90% fit, he goes straight back into that centre-back partnership with Aldrete. But I don't think anybody counted on the form of Luke O'Nien and the performances of Luke O'Nien in those weeks that he's been out. So I'm really, really conflicted. Like any other time, if you just said Dan Ballard's back, does he go into the starting lineup? I mean, yeah, absolutely he does. But Luke O'Nien and Aldrete have done really, really well together. But then on the flip side of that, we know how ruthless and cutthroat Labris and the upper echelons of the club can be. So, if your best, I think it's safe to say that he's our best centre-back. If your best centre-back is fit and available at a time when you need points to achieve something historic with the club, it stands to reason he goes back in. And I think Luke, if that was to happen, then Luke O'Nien would be fully acceptant of it, because I think Luke O'Nien he's like a little Labrador. He just loves to be around the place, just like running around and being all happy with everybody, which is great. I think it probably would be a little bit harsh, but I think Dan Ballard's name doesn't get mentioned unless there is an intention to play him. I think that he would have been played down a little bit more, and we maybe would have seen him as a surprise entry on the bench if he genuinely wasn't fully fit and wasn't available. I think Labris is probably playing his cards a little bit close to his chest and not giving anything away, but I would not be surprised to see Ballard in that starting lineup this afternoon.
It was an interesting one. Labris spoke about this during the week as well, with O'Nien's selection ahead of Gertrude. And he was kind of saying that O'Nien's a great person within his way. I think he said he's a great teammate to start with, and his culture is right, and his connection to the squad is really important. But it's interesting, he said he's a club captain, so it was natural for me to play him again in his position to keep the consistency. And I was a little bit surprised by that, especially when you got Gertrude there, and we've got an option to take him in the summer if both parties want it. And I would love to see him stay at the club. I don't think he will, because he just hasn't been able to nail down a regular a regular spot, has he? And he's talked about Nordi Mukiele as well, who said at the right back position. It's fair to say that Nordi has been impressive this season and is a starter. And he said it was a 51-49 decision, I think, with Mukiele and Trey Hume at right back. But I think if you're going to look at what Lebris normally does, you're right, Bomber. He's pretty ruthless in his team selection. He doesn't use anything else apart from what's going to be the best team to win this game today. And I think the only thing that might come into his mind is that we play again on Friday, and it might be a case of if Ballard's been out for a few weeks and he's only just got back into training, playing Sunday, playing Friday, he might want to save him till Friday. I know Luke O'Nine's played well in the games he has played at centre half. And to be fair, he played right back at Leeds, left back at Port Vale, and then centre back against Newcastle and centre back against Spurs, didn't he? I know he's played well in the main, and I think he's stepped up really well, and he certainly hasn't looked out of place. I think you and I were talking about this the other day, Andrew. He could easily concede a penalty against Spurs. He could easily have been given a red card for a foul outside the box against Spurs. He made the mistake against Newcastle. I do worry that O'Nine's got that in him, but again, Luke O'Nine's proven every single person who doubted him wrong throughout the whole of his time at Sunderland. So I would not be surprised to see Luke O'Nine start and turn in a man in the match performance. In midfield, any problems, any objections to Xhaka, Siddiqui and Diarra in the centre, or do you think there's going to be a curveball there, Andrew?
I think we can move on from that.
Well, Bomber, you can move on from it. Andrew, do you want to go with that, or do you see any other options?
I don't see there being any changes. And this is a really basic statement I'm going to make. But having jotted down that starting 11 that I've predicted, we're a bloody good team, aren't we? It doesn't look bad when you put it down on paper. And yeah, if I was facing a team of this quality in a midfield of those three at the moment, I'd be a little bit worried. So no, unless again, like you say, with the Forest game being relatively soon after, there was a concern a couple of weeks ago about Xhaka's ankle. Unless there's something behind the scenes that we're not aware of, and we need to give Xhaka a lighter schedule.
Yeah,
I would imagine we stick with those three. Just very quickly on Gertrude, as we were talking about there. It proves the point of the quality we've got. He was almost coming to Sunderland, a newly promoted club. It was almost seen as he was stepping down because he was wanting to establish himself in the starting 11. He's had this situation previously where he couldn't get regular games because he was so versatile. He was a bit of a Darren Williams in that you couldn't. It made sense to have him there on the bench as backup, rather than nail down one position. So I do think he moves on in the summer, which I'd be disappointed about. He's certainly sharp and ready if there was to be a change in midfield. I don't see him signing permanently, sadly. I think he'll want to go somewhere else and try and finally nail down a starting position. And I don't see him or anybody else coming into that midfield three unless, as I say, there's something we're currently unaware of.
The only bit you could maybe make a case for is getting Lefay through that middle bit of the field rather than that wide, because he's such an important and good player for us. But I just don't see how you do it. I thought Diarra probably had his best game for us against Spurs at the weekend. I thought he was fantastic linking the play, and I think he just needs that run in the side now. Where, he's had such a stop-start season. He's had injuries. He's been away at AFCON. And I think the more football we can give him now in this closing part of the season, it sets him up perfectly for next season. So I think he's got to stay in the team.
The thing as well with that is you could name those three as your starting middle three, but we saw against Tottenham that there's that much fluidity in the team Lefay maybe does end up playing as part of that trio, and then Diarra or Siddiqui pop up on the wing for a bit as well.
Yeah.
So it's not as if they're shackled to one part
No,
of the
that's
pitch.
right. That's right. So I think Lefay is obviously going to play somewhere, and that will presumably be on the left-hand side. Robbie will be up front, you would have thought, and that's going to be another interesting one to watch because I'm so intrigued to see how he performs after the ridiculous attention he's got this week. It's been absolutely scandalous the amount of attention he's got this week. But that's going to be in referees' minds. It's going to be in the Villa players' minds. It's going to be in the supporters' minds. So it's going to be really interesting to watch things that go on around Robbie. On the right-hand side, Chris Rigg played there last week, and I think he played really well against Brighton. He played really well against Newcastle. I don't think he did as well against Spurs, but I think he did a good job. Does Rigg keep his place, or is there an option there, Bomber, to bring somebody else in?
I think if there was going to be one change, that would possibly be it. I think the way in which we seem to prefer to play when we're away from home is very much a sit back a little bit, let them have the ball, try and catch them on the break. And with that, you need pace. And although Riggy puts himself about and isn't slow by any stretch of the imagination, we've got wingers who are a lot more direct and a lot faster. And if that's the way we're gonna play is to soak up some pressure and then try and catch teams on the break away from home, specifically Villa this afternoon, then they're going to need those outlets. And although Brobby will run the channels all day, he's going to need support, and he's going to need support quickly. You just look at what he does best, holding the ball up with his back to goal inside the 18-yard box or just outside of it. He's going to need those two wide players to be in and around him as quickly as possible when the ball does go up to him. So maybe Talby comes straight as a swap. I think that's genuinely the only place where there could be a change in personnel in that starting lineup, and it wouldn't be a slight on Riggy. It would be tactical, like we said. All three of us have said it at some point today. Lebris picks a team to get a job done on the day. So whatever he thinks is best. And like I said, if that's how we want to play, and we have been playing away like that away from home, then that pace up front, it will be much needed. I'm interested to see how, as Andrew would call him, Bayern Munich does against those two Villa centre halves, because they're a different, I guess, breed of centre back than what Brobby will have come up against. I'm not saying they're necessarily better, but we've watched Brobby get fighting for balls with Saliba and Gabriel, and the powerhouses of centre backs in the Premier League. I don't think Villa's centre halves are quite that. I mean, don't get me wrong, Villa are a very good team defensively. They've got a very good defensive record, particularly at home. But I think their centre halves will potentially, if Brobby's up for it, will have a bit of a nightmare on their hands. And I think he's got the potential to give them both an absolute torrid, like he did with Romero and Van der Ven. And like I said, even if you go back to them, I know it's, again, with the asterisks, that it's Spurs, and it's not a very good Spurs this season. But Romero is a very physical centre half, and Van der Ven is a very fast and cultured centre half. And he gave them both an absolute torrid, and Danso when he came on as well. And I think the Villa centre halves are probably at that sort of level as well, or form-wise might be different. But yeah, I think I'd be really interested. It could be a very, very good game again for Bayern Munich.
Let's hope so. And I love watching Robbie play. Andrew's gutted he didn't come up with that one, aren't you? The Talby one's really interesting. I actually think that will be the change, Bomber. And the reason I think so is, again, listening to the podcast that Chris did with the Aston Villa fan. He said their vulnerability is pace out wide. They struggle against pace out wide. And I think Lefay is going to play on the left, presumably. I think we need to get a bit more direct pace on the right-hand side. And I think that's where Rigg comes out and Talby probably comes in. Or something even like Mayenda comes in. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some football between now and the end of the season, because, Lebris will be wanting to give him game time. So that could be a bit of a curveball one with Mayenda. But if I was a betting man, I would put Talby in for Rigg, and that would be the only change I suspect we might see. Andrew, what do you reckon?
I can see the theory behind that. And had Mukiele not come back into the team, I think the chances of that would have increased even more. I just think Rigg, again, allows us the ability to be flexible in terms of where players are at various points in the pitch, various points in the game. If you play Talby, he is more a traditional winger and you don't get much variation from him. I loved Mukiele bombing up and down the wing against Spurs. And he scored the goal in the end in a roundabout way. I think Lebris likes Mukiele being the one that provides the width for us, with Rigg almost at times linking up with him, but then moving out of the way if needs be. But certainly, it's not what I'd considered. But certainly, if Talby came in, you would fully understand why. You wouldn't be worried. He's one of the players who is going to feel particularly sore, I think, about having to have made way for the Spurs game. I think Lebris even said in his press conference that the two of them had a chat and he'd explained, it's not because you're not doing the right thing. It is just, as Bomber said earlier, he changes things game by game and picks the 11 that thinks is best suited for that one particular opposition. So no, if Talby comes in, no problem at all. He would do a good job. And yeah, he certainly would get us excited and he would be looking to run at his fullback and take him on and make things happen.
I guess another part of that equation potentially is Trey Hume, because you make a really good point about the role that Rigg plays on that right-hand side enables Mukiele to bomb up and overlap and all that sort of stuff. I think if you look back at the Spurs game, it'd be interesting to watch Rigg's position when Mukiele gets his goal, because he would have been in a completely different position to what Talby would have been in that sort of scenario. And even that incident where Robbie ran into the back of the lad who stopped run and ended up getting hurt. Rigg,
you mean when he committed GBH, Martin? That incident where
So if Robbie is available for the game and not locked up in a 10-year stretch, as adjudicated by Alan Sugar and Claude Littner and the rest of the Spurs gang. But in that move, when Robbie went through, Rigg actually won the ball, didn't he, in the right back spot? Great sliding tackle to actually put the ball through. And again, that's something that Talby wouldn't necessarily do if he was in the team playing that position. But Trey Hume comes into the conversation in that case, if you're talking in that respect, because we've seen Trey Hume play in that slightly more advanced role, which enables him to drop and enables that space for Mukiele to bomb forward. And he's been our most potent threat out wide, I think, all season, Mukiele. The way he can get down that wing and create, if space is there for him to run into, he's got a great engine on him. He's got a great ball into the box. And, potentially there's an argument there to go, well, you either keep Rigg in, and that's his job, is to sort of go a little bit narrow and allow that overlap. Or for an away game like that, you bring Trey Hume back in to that position, and he does that sort of hybrid role. He can drop back to cover Mukiele, who overlaps, and it just causes a little bit of confusion for the Villa defence to deal with. But we will see. We are going to move on very quickly to the last time Sunderland beat Aston Villa. So this at Villa Park. So this was a game in January 2011. We beat them 1-0. Steve Bruce, our manager. Gerard Houllier was their manager. And I'm going to ask you to name the starting 11. So, Andrew, who was in goal for Sunderland on that night?
Oh, what was the year?
2011. So 2011. So this was Steve Bruce. It was his second season in charge.
Okay. Simon Mignolet in goal?
No, Mignolet was on the bench.
Oh, okay. Any ideas then, Bomber?
I wouldn't have
Westwood.
Actually, when was this? When did we say 2017?
2011. Come on, get your
2011. Oh,
get your
sorry,
listening
sorry.
ears on, Bomber. Come on.
Sorry, 2011.
Would it have been? Do you reckon Bomber Kieran Westwood then? Was he usually back to Mignolet?
Someone like that. Goalkeeper. I'll have to pass on a goalkeeper because I can't think of anybody outside of Mignolet. I can't even really think of us.
I'll give you
who we had in.
I'll give you a clue. He was the most expensive goalkeeper in Britain for a spell.
Craig Gordon.
Craig Gordon was in goal. That's right. Defence. Four players in defence.
Well, Bardsley.
Bardsley got the goal as well.
He scored the goal. Yeah.
He did.
That was going to be the one fact I could remember from the game.
Well, that's why I got in there before you, Andrew, because I'm about out of it now.
Michael Turner, maybe under Steve Bruce.
No, Turner was not in the squad on that day. Ooh. He was at the club at the time.
Yeah,
he was at the club, but
it feels a bit of a strange one because
no.
Oh God. Sorry, Bomber. Go on.
No, that's all right. No, I was going to say it's a strange one because, like I said, that period of time, I don't think of Craig Gordon necessarily. I'm thinking again straight in with Mignolet. So we're probably Bardsley. It's going to be like Anton Ferdinand or Bramble or something like that. So I'll go Anton. Let's go Anton.
Yeah, Anton Ferdinand was in the team that day, as was Titus Bramble. Bomber, there you got two in one. Oh, there, mate. Well done.
Okay, happy days.
So left back was a Roy Keane signing who was kind of a converted left back.
Oh, I'm thinking Kieran Richardson. Then
Kieran Richardson was at left back. Now in midfield, who do you want to chuck into the consideration there?
Just before we go on, Martin, that noise you made when Bomber picked out Bramble and Ferdinand. If you could clip that up for me, please. That was lovely. That was a lovely little noise you made.
I can't really take too much credit for it because it's the only other two centre backs I can remember outside of John O'Shea in that for that time.
Midfield was.
Did we still have Jordan Henderson at that time?
Yeah, Henderson was in the team. Yeah.
Okay.
So, what time's kick-off today? People are going to miss the start of today's game at this rate. Larson didn't come in until Henderson went, because otherwise I would have guessed Craig Gardner and Larson.
So it was a season before that. Yeah.
Did David Mailer play?
He did, and this was a game he got injured in, I think.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay.
So Bolo Zenden, Bomber's friend, came on for David Mailer just before half-time. He actually got sent off towards the end of the game.
Yes. Yeah.
I vaguely remember that. It was two bookings, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He got booked like quite short space of time from one another, yeah. Who are you missing then, Mark?
Right, so we've got a right winger who Bruce brought to the country at Sunderland, and then
to the country or to the club?
To the country, and then he took to a number of clubs after Sunderland as well.
El Mohammadi.
That's the one.
Ahmed El Mohammadi.
That's right.
Elmo.
So was Henderson playing in the middle?
I presume so, because El Mohammadi usually played on the right-hand side, didn't he?
Yeah, I think of him more as a wide player.
So it's a left winger we're looking for.
Yeah, and where people were playing, you could kind of pick and choose. You can make a case for them playing different positions. So you got three players left.
Oh, Darren Bent, I'm guessing.
Darren Bent was playing. Yeah,
the only other one that I would have thought of. Does that mean that Gian was there?
He was on the bench. He came on as sub.
Probably for Bent.
No, for one of the players who you're missing. So you got two players. Well, you got one player left now because Danny Welbeck was in the team. Yeah, that's right. Christian Riveros came on as sub for Danny Welbeck. in this
I
game.
never got that in a million years. Got Christian Riveros in a million years. I forgot he existed.
I've got one more player who, unsurprisingly, only lasted 55 minutes and he went off for a tab.
Steed.
Oh, Steed.
That's right. There we go. In the Aston Villa side, there was Carlos Quella, who went on to play for Sunderland. Stuart Downing, who, of course, had a loan spell at Sunderland under Mick McCarthy. And Brad Friedel, who Peter Reid almost signed, but was denied with a work permit, wasn't he? Right, score predictions. What do we fancy today?
Oh, Andrew, you go first, mate.
Right. Okay. Our you know, Martin, when you looked at the form for Villa over the last 12 games, well, the website I looked at wasn't as good as yours because it only did the last 6 games. And our form is, we've doubled the amount of points that Villa have got in the last 6 games. That, added to the fact that, relatively speaking, we've done okay on the road this season. Away wins for us in the Premier League sometimes are like as rare as hen's teeth. I think if we beat Villa, we'll go to 5 away wins for the season, which is like the best we've done since the time, like Gus Poyet type of era. So all of that considered, I'm feeling giddy. I'm going to predict we snatch a really welcome 1-0 away win.
Oh, three wins in a row in the Premier League. Andrew's feeling confident. I'll have that. What do you fancy, Bomber?
So I am going to the game. I'll be leaving shortly, and I've got a good record for Sunderland games at the minute. The ones that I've managed to get to. Obviously, tickets are hard to come by, but I'm undefeated, so I'm going to remain undefeated.
Good.
Admittedly, it's my first away game of the season. I'm going to go 1s each. My gut feel, the optimist in me thinks a 1-0 away win, another tight one, but I don't want to copy Andrew. So even though I've given him first dibs, he's taken the score that I wanted, so it's backfired on me. So I'll go 1 each because, you know, it's a critical game for both teams' seasons. I don't think either team will want to lose it, but even though Villa's record, home or away, in the Premier League at the minute isn't great, I still can't get away from our away record, which still it pales compared to our home record. So yeah, I'll go for an entertaining 1-1.
Very good. So that'll be 3. If Andrew's right, we'll have 3 consecutive wins in the Premier League, 3 away wins in the Premier League consecutively. You know, so it's looking good. I've gone for a 1-1. We do the score predictions on the website. I've gone for a 1-1, the same as you, Bomber. So let's hope we pick something up and we keep that bit of momentum going.
The bookies,
I think a point would be fine, considering the games we've got to come. As long as we get something from the games we've got to come, like away to Wolves, you know, with us still to play, something to play for, you fancy our chances maybe. I'd fancy beating Forest at home as well, given that they've got European football to think about and survival. But I fancy us at home against them, and then we've got Everton. So I think if we can draw or get something from the game, and then get what we anticipate we get from the rest of them, I think I'd be happy with a draw retrospectively.
I was just going to say the bookies would love it if everybody was polite as you, Bomber, and thought, oh, well, somebody's already put a bet on us winning 1-0. I better not do the same. I'll go for another score. They'd absolutely love that if people didn't pile on some of the more obvious potential score lines.
Well, we can start our own bookies, and we can only take 1 bet per score. You're not going to make too much money, I don't think, are you? Right, we will leave it there. Of course, we'll be back after the game with a reaction on the full-time whistle. But until then, thank you very much, Andrew.
Brilliant. Thank you, gents. Loved it.
And cheers, Bomber. Enjoy the
Thanks,
match.
Mark. Thanks as always. Yep, thank you. Hopefully it'll be at least a 1-1 draw, but hopefully a 1-0 win.
That's right. And safe travel to everybody who is on the way to Villa Park. Hope we have a very enjoyable afternoon. Come away with a point or 3. And yes, we'll have a podcast for you to listen to on the way back. So until then, it's goodbye from us.
You can't reason with the sun. Trust us, we've tried. This summer, it's time to put that angry ball of fire on mute. Columbia's OmniShade technology is engineered to protect you from the sun's harsh rays that can burn and damage your skin. The sun is relentless, but so is our gear. Level up your summer at Columbia.com to spend more time outside and less time slathering on aloe lotion. You're welcome. Columbia, engineered for whatever.